Well, students, in the last class, we have studied future and present value of a cash flow stream. In this class, we will talk about some fixed income securities, more specifically, bonds. A bond is basically an obligation by the issuer, also called debtor, to pay money to the holder, called creditor, according to a set of rules specified at the time of issue. Let us try to understand this in detail. Whenever business firms needs fund for their expenditures like expanding their business and so on, they look for borrowing money through an instrument called bond. So they issue bond through which they get money from the public or financial institutions. In return, they give a certificate which states the date of issue of the bond, the maturity time, the face value of the bond, the coupon rate, that is the, you can interpret as the interest rate, and the frequency in which they pay the interest. For all this, they fix a price called issue price. They generally fix a date before which they will invite people to buy their bonds. So people pay money and apply for the bond, and in certain order they issue this bond to the people. In this way, the people who lend money to the issuers through bonds are generally called the creditors, who are the holders of this bond. There are basically two types of bonds. One is the zero coupon bond and the other one is the coupon bond. What is mean by zero coupon bond? So zero coupon bond is a single payment bond. Zero coupon bond is a single payment bond. So you have the issue time, let's take it as t equal to 0, and the maturity time, let's take it as t equal to capital T. A zero coupon bond is nothing but the issuer invites lenders to lend money at the time, at the issue time, and they never give any payment. Finally, they give the principal plus the interest, both together at the time of maturity. So that is called the zero coupon bond. Whereas coupon bonds have a cash flow stream like this. So let's see this from the holder's point of view. The holder of the bond initially lends money to the investor, and therefore there is a minus sign here. The initial price B, P naught. Each amount CK are called coupon values. So at the specific times, these coupon values are paid to the holders, called coupon payment. As I told, the P naught is the issue price, and finally you have the, at the time of maturity, the issuer pays you what is called the face value and the coupon payment of the last installment. The rate per annum at which CKs, the CKs are calculated from PN, is called the kth coupon rate. So let's see an example. An issuer issued a bond, say, for a period of 5 years. So T is equal to 0, T naught equal to 0, and T n is equal to, say, 5 years. At the end of the first year, the issuer will pay you an amount C1, which is called the coupon payment. Second year end, again the issuer will pay an amount C2, similarly C3, and at the end of fourth year, C4, and finally the last installment C5. So since this is also the maturity period, the principal or the face value, which is denoted by PN, is also paid and the bond is closed. So this is how the payment will go, and therefore you have the cash flow stream like this. So initially you will pay some money that will be at par with principal. It is called either a face value or par value, and then the issuer will pay you the interest. From the bond point of view, they are called coupons. So often these CKs are equal. Let's more specifically have at 0 you pay some money, which we will have to find what is the correct price that needs to be paid. And suppose the issuer gives 6 rupees at the end of each year, and finally 100 rupees plus 6 rupees, which is 106 rupees if he gives, it means the face value is 100. All the coupon values are basically 6, 6 and so on. Therefore, the coupon rate is 6%, right? So coupon rate is 6. And this is basically the structure of the coupon bonds. Coupon rate is seen something equivalent to the interest rate, and the face value seen equivalent to the principal. So why this name coupon is because in olden days, the issuers generally give a book of coupons, which at every payment period, you have to tear one coupon and send it to the broker, and the broker will in turn give it to the issuer, and the issuer will release the installment payment. So that is why traditionally it is called coupon, and it has been continued till to date. So in this, the important point is, what is the initial amount that we need to pay in order to own this cash flow stream, that is in order to own the bond. So this P naught is called the issue price. So let us see how to calculate this issue price. So to calculate the issue price, let us consider the cash flow like this. We will take the initial thing as 0 in order to get the issue price in terms of the present value. So to keep our discussion simple, we will assume that all the coupon values are equal. Generally, in most of the bonds, it will be like that. Each coupon value C is for 1 year, and it is paid M times in a year. Let's assume like this. It means, suppose you have a 5-year bond, T naught equal to 0 to Tn equal to 5. And each year, you are going to have the payment of rupees C, and at the end you are going to have your face value plus C. Now the question is, what is the value of P naught? Okay, so let us assume that each coupon value C is paid M times. For instance, if it is semi-annual, then you will be getting C by 2 here, and C by 2 here, C by 2 here, and so on. Similarly, if it is quarterly, that is M equal to 4, then you will be getting C by 4, and every quarter the issuer will release the coupon payment. So if the bond duration is N, therefore you have M into N number of coupon payments. So you also need a interest rate, which we will denote by R, and we will assume that it is compounded with a frequency M, which is same as the number of times the coupon payments are released. So with all this information, now we can apply our present value formula for this cash flow. So if you recall, in the last class we have seen what is the formula for present value for a given cash flow. Now you can apply the same idea for this cash flow. And if you recall, the formula will read, so here R is something which we have to supply, and we will get the present value. So generally we take this present value as P naught. That is the issue price. See, what is this R? This R is called the yield of the bond. R is called the yield of the bond. Recall, we have a coupon rate. Okay, so coupon rate is C by F. Okay, and R is what we call as yield. So we will give R and then find the P naught. What issuers do is, generally this R they will fix as the coupon rate, and that will be the prevailing interest rate, so that your P naught will match with Pn. Okay, so like that they will fix generally. That's what in practice it happens, but theoretically we will take R as some parameter we will be supplying here to get the price of the bond. Recall that this formula is for compound interest with frequency M. Now the same if we consider continuous compounding. Then what is the formula? Let us try to derive this. From compound interest, we have this formula. Now what you do is you further introduce a frequency parameter which we denote by mu. Please note that this is only for the theoretical purpose, but in reality we don't do this step in the bonds. Okay, so what we are doing is you take one period, say for instance the initial period from 0 to 1. Say you already had a quarterly payment, say let's take this as tk to tk plus 1. So you are further dividing it into mu parts. Okay, mu parts. So thereby what you are doing is, if you recall, this is the your final payment Pn is discounted to your initial issue time. Since there were n, that is equal to n is equal to m times n number of payments, coupon payments were there, your discount factor was like that, and each one was at a rate of r by m, right? So therefore you have this discount factor. Now that you further divided into mu parts, each payment period is divided into mu parts. Therefore your new discount factor will be 1 by 1 plus r by m by mu into each part is divided further into mu. There are n such part. Therefore, the discount factor will be raised to n into m. Okay. So Pn is discounted by this factor. Now, you use a change of variable. Nu is equal to n times mu. Then this can be written as, so you are discounting Pn 1 plus r by m by mu is nu by n the whole power nu. So that can be written as Pn divided by, so remember n equal to m times n, right? So if you put that, you have 1 plus or n divided by nu the whole power nu. Okay, so we got this. This we will now replace here. And now let us take one typical term of the second part. So we have C by M 1 by 1 plus R by M by mu into, now you have K here, therefore here you have K mu. That is, you are further dividing each payment period into mu pieces. That is, further mu frequencies you are introducing just for the sake of derivation. So again, use the change of variable. Let me use the same notation. You are supposed to use a different notation, but let me just use same one. K mu, if you take, then this can be written as C by M 1 by 1 plus R by M divided by nu by K the whole nu. That is C by M 1 by 1 plus R K by M by nu the whole power nu. That is this one. So we got this term C by M divided by 1 plus RK by M by nu the whole nu. Now we substitute this term here, and we finally get PV of B equal to the first term and the second term, where we have broken each coupon period into mu sub periods and then made a change of variable here. Now take nu tending to infinity, because the frequency tending to infinity is what is meant by continuous compounding, if you recall. Therefore, we have to take mu tending to infinity. We have this tending to Pn e power minus or n, okay? And this tends to C by m e to the power of minus or k by m. Now you can see that from the partition we have taken T naught equal to 0, T1 equal to 1 by m, T2 equal to 2 by m, T3 equal to 3 by m, and so on. And at the end, Tn minus 1 is equal to n minus 1 by m, and Tn is equal to n by m. That is actually n, okay, because n, capital N is equal to m into n, right? So we have this, and here you can see that k is running from 1 to n. For each k, k by m is tk. Therefore, this I can replace by tk, and this I can replace by T capital N. Okay, so thereby I get present value of B as per the continuous compounding. We have Pn e power minus or n. This also can be written as T capital N. And then you have the second term C by m e power minus r into tk. So this is the formula for continuous compounding. So if you are taking the issue price with respect to continuous compounding, then you have to use this formula. Let us take an example of, you have a bond with C is equal to 6 and Pn, the face value is 100, and each year the coupon payment is given, say, quarterly. Therefore m is equal to 4. If it is semi-annual, it is 2. So since quarterly it is given, your partition is T naught, which is equal to 0, T1 is equal to 1 by 4, and then 2 by 4, 3 by 4, 1, 5 by 4, and so on, till say n is given by 5, then it goes till 5. Yeah, let us take R is equal to 4.5%, that is 0.045. Then we can compute if the issue price is computed as per continuous compounding, then we have this value. That is 100 into e to the power of minus 0.045 into 5 plus sigma k equal to 1 to, there are 20 terms. Each year has 4 terms and there are 5 years. Therefore, you have 20 terms. C, the coupon value is 6 by 4, that is 1.5 into e to the power of minus 0.045 into tk, where tks are given like this. That is approximately equal to 106.57. Okay, so The yield R can be taken any amount. Okay, so if you take R is equal to 0.6, you, in my calculation, you get something like 99.81. So far, we have introduced the notion of bonds and we have seen what all the basic parameters that are needed to define bond. And we have also studied how to fix the issue price of a bond given other parameters. Now, the next question is there any risk in investing in bonds? One can see that bonds are basically fixed income security. This is because the cash flow stream is predetermined at the issue time itself, both in terms of how much interest we are going to get and at what times we are going to get the interest, and finally what is the payment. Whatever we gave as a principal, we are finally getting it back at the maturity also. Therefore, it looks as if there is no risk involved in the bond investment, but that is not true. There are some risks involved in bonds. Let us see what are those risks. Basically, there are three levels of risks that are involved in bond investments. The first one is what is called the credit risk. You can see that you are lending money to somebody through these bonds. Okay. The issuer, that is the debtor, is supposed to pay you the coupon amounts and the face value. But what happens during the bond period if the issuer goes bankrupt due to some reason? Then they cannot meet their liability after they go bankrupt. More importantly, they may not be in a position to return your principal. Such a situation is called defaulting. In this case, you will completely lose your principal and also the coupon amounts thereby, and such a risk is called the credit risk. Well, the question is, can we somehow measure at least approximately how much credit risk is involved in a bond before going to invest in it? The good news is that there are some rating agencies which gives rating of several companies that issues bonds. Like in India, we have CARE rating agency, CRISIL, ICRA, and so on. They give rating like AAA means it's a low risk, and therefore you can more confidently invest money into such companies. It doesn't mean they don't default, but the chance of defaulting is very less. Like that, this rating agencies have many levels: AAA, AA, BBB, and so on. So before investing into any company, you first try to see what is the rating that is given to that company and then take a decision. So that is the credit risk. The next risk involved is inflation risk. See, the coupon rates are fixed at the time of purchase of the bond, so they don't change later. Even at the time of purchasing the bond, if the coupon rate is higher than the inflation rate, later the inflation may suddenly shoot up and thereby your coupon rate may go less than the inflation, in which case your real value of your principal is actually diminishing, right? So such a situation will lead to inflation risk. Where exactly it matters for a bond investor is when they delay their purchase on some item, thinking that that item will not appreciate so much than the coupon rate of a bond. For instance, let's take Mr. Meg wants to buy 5 grams of gold today when the rate of 1 gram gold is 5,000 rupees. So thereby he has to put 25,000, right? Assume that he had 25,000 today and therefore he can go and buy the gold that he wanted. But he saw a bond. Correspondingly, he saw a bond which gives 10% coupon rate. He guessed that gold will not appreciate 10% per year, and Therefore, he thought that let him go for this bond and hold it for 5 years. Say, just for instance, suppose it is a 5-year bond. So let me hold this bond for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, I will take that principal and buy the gold that I needed. And unfortunately, after 5 years, if the gold appreciated too much, then he will be at loss. Okay. So today, if he would have bought the money that he got, he would have bought that 5 grams. But later, at the time of maturity, the gold price is much more than what he had at that time. That is his principal plus the all the coupon amount. If he adds, then also suppose if the gold rate is more than that, then he is at loss. He would have bought it today itself, but later he has to put some money from his pocket to cover the same 5 gram of gold. So that is the basic problem in inflation rate. Such risk is there, in fact, in any investment, not only in bond. Finally, and this is more important for the traders, is the liquidity risk. See, as long as you wait till the maturity and then take your principal and the coupon from the issuer, there is no worry of liquidity risk. Okay. If you are happy with the coupon rate and if you have the capacity to wait till the maturity, then you will never face liquidity risk. The liquidity risk comes only when you want to sell the bond much before the maturity date. Before explaining what is liquidity risk, let me tell you how people trade bonds in the secondary market. Whenever holder of a bond faces some need of the money before maturity time, they can go to what is called the secondary market and try to sell their bond and get the principal amount from the buyer. Let us illustrate this. A owner of the bond at any time before the maturity can go to the secondary markets. Like in India, we have National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. They can place the order there. In fact, online they can do it, where they can also find some buyers who can pay money to the holders and buy the bond from them. So in this kind of trade, what happens is the buyers, they will try to sense how much the sellers are in need of money. Okay. So that is what is called liquidity. They, so if they are facing some problem, accordingly, the buyers will try to bargain with the sellers. Always the buyers will try to minimize the price, whereas the sellers will try to maximize. When they both meet at some price, the bond get traded. That is, the seller will give the bond to the buyer and the buyer pays them whatever they both mutually agreed with, that price they will pay. That we generally call as P of T, because this can happen any time T between the issue time and the maturity time. Okay. So anytime that the holder faces problem or need of money, they can come to this market and virtually they can find buyers and bid with them and then sell their bond and get the money and go back. So in this process, this PT need not be equal to the principal amount. The holder would have got all the coupon monies in the past. Therefore, if they can get their face price of the bond, they will be more happy. But the buyers, the new buyers, will try to sense that the sellers are very badly in need of money. Therefore, they will bargain and try to get their price less than the face value, so that their coupon amount, which is fixed from the issuer point of view, but when compared to their new buy price, the coupon rate will actually be more than what it was at the time of issuing in terms of P naught, right? So that is why the buyers will try to bargain with the sellers and try to reduce the price of the bond less than the face value. So that how much ever less the previous holder gets will go as a loss for the previous holder, that is the seller. So that this is called the liquidity risk.